Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a massive, honestly kind of hidden philosophical puzzle. Our main focus, we're going to completely deconstruct something almost every single one of us does without even realizing it. Our absolute, deep-rooted cultural obsession with reaching an ending. We are going to rip apart what it actually means to reach a destination and figure out if arriving is a real thing or if it's literally just a psychological illusion.
Are we there yet? Seriously, how many times have we all groaned that from the backseat of a car or thought it while agonizing over a 99% loading screen? But let's reframe this for a second. The source material we're digging into today doesn't look at this as just some petty travel complaint. It frames it as a deep, universal psychological condition. It perfectly captures our profound discomfort with uncertainty and our total obsession with outcomes.
So, here is the roadmap for our philosophical journey today. We're hitting 1. The myth of arrival. 2. The psychology of closure. 3. Infinite progress and paradox. 4. The power of ambiguity. And finally, 5. Debating the destination. Let's get moving.
Starting with Section 1, the myth of arrival, and rethinking what it means to end. Let's look at how arrival is way less about physical travel and way more about a state of mind.
From the time we're kids, we are drilled with this idea to never give up, right? But take a look at this direct contrast. Persistence versus strategic quitting. The text forces us to step back and ask some genuinely tough Socratic questions. When should we actually throw in the towel? Does just putting time into something justify continuing it? Actually, scratch that. Is knowing exactly when to quit a far greater, much more mature skill than just stubbornly persevering? And honestly, quitting is just the tip of the iceberg here. The source text lays out this massive landscape of hidden subthemes. We're looking at time, like, is knowing how long success takes actually good for us? We're looking at infinite progress. Can humanity ever truly arrive? We're questioning if patience is a virtue or just a weakness, and whether chasing impossible utopias is even worth the effort. It's a huge web of ideas. Moving right along to Section 2, the psychology of closure, or why we hate waiting. Let's pick up the pace a bit, because this part is all about humanity's desperate craving for things to just be finished. Okay, humans, we inherently crave closure. We literally hate uncertainty. We squirm in our seats at ambiguity and unfinished stories, and we absolutely detest endless waiting. I mean, whether that's waiting for a life-changing email or just staring down your microwave for those last 3 seconds, it drives us crazy. When things lack a definitive end, it creates a very real, visceral psychological discomfort for us.
And because we hate that uncertainty so much, it bleeds into our real-world behavior. We become wildly impatient, we get utterly obsessed with deadlines, and we feel this lingering itch when endings are left open. We are fundamentally destination-oriented creatures. But the source material challenges us to take a breath and ask, is this constant urgent desire to just be done actually healthy for us?
Well, a lot of times, it's not healthy at all. A prime example, the sunk cost fallacy. This is where emotional attachment, a massive fear of quitting, and a deep cultural shame around stopping completely take over. It makes our persistence totally irrational. Our fear of stopping just traps us in terrible situations. It really makes you wonder, is endurance really something to admire when it's driving you right off a cliff? Just because you've been driving for a long time? Which brings us to Section 3, Infinite Progress and Paradox, the illusion of arriving. We're slowing things down here for a major paradigm shift, because we're introducing the idea that arrival might not even exist. To really grasp this, the text points us to Zeno's paradox. This is a brilliant philosophical concept, suggesting that motion and progress might actually be infinite, meaning we perhaps never truly arrive anywhere. Think about human civilization as a whole. We might always chase peace, we might always chase perfection, or progress, or meaning without ever fully 100% getting there. The finish line is literally always moving. So, let that sink in for a second. If the finish line is just a mirage, is the pursuit itself enough? If progress is infinite and arriving is a total illusion, then we have to find meaning in the chase itself. And wow, that is a heavy existential pill to swallow. On to Section 4. The power of ambiguity and the beauty of the unresolved. If arrival is an illusion, how does that change the stories we tell? Let's look at how art and narrative actually embrace this lack of arrival, completely flipping modern storytelling on its head. The source text calls out some absolute fictional masterpieces here: Stargate Universe, The Sopranos, Life of Pi, and Blade Runner. And they're brilliant examples because they all lean into unresolved endings. Instead of wrapping everything up in a neat, perfect little bow, they invite reflection. They prove that mystery absolutely outlives certainty in our minds. When a story doesn't fully end, we just keep living in it.
And that's exactly why the text contrasts ambiguity with closure. Look, strict closure might feel amazing in the moment. It quickly scratches that psychological itch we talked about earlier, but it effectively kills the creative journey for the audience right on the spot. Ambiguity, on the other hand, sure, it can be deeply frustrating, but it forces interpretation. It shows us that leaving questions unanswered is essential to human creativity.
Finally, Section 5, Debating the Destination. Let's take all these high-level concepts and apply them to some elite, highly practical intellectual exercises drawn directly from the World Scholars Cup.
Take this top-tier debate motion. This house regrets society's obsession with outcomes. This directly challenges you to argue whether the act of progressing matters more than just completing the task. It takes that deeply ingrained cultural habit, judging the entire journey by its final result, and puts it squarely on trial.
Building right off of that, this house believes that humanity values destinations too much and movement too little. This one is inspired straight from Zeno of Elea, and it perfectly captures the tension between finite, measurable goals and infinite processes. Are we so hyper-focused on getting there that we've completely forgotten to value the act of movement? Or how about we put our own habits on trial? This house regrets the cultural glorification of never giving up. This ties right back into our chat about the sunk cost fallacy. It beautifully illustrates the clash between blind, stubborn persistence and the highly strategic and often totally necessary act of just quitting. And last but not least, this house believes that stories are more meaningful when their endings remain ambiguous. This motion is the perfect summary of the great debate between certainty and uncertainty in human narratives. It forces us to weigh the warm comfort of a resolution against the lasting, haunting power of a lingering mystery. Now, the reason our source text highlights these specific motions is because they avoid shallow, strictly factual policy debates. They force us to do the heavy lifting, defining our deepest values, challenging our core assumptions about progress, analyzing human psychology, and ultimately debating competing visions of what meaning actually is. Which leaves us with, honestly, the deepest, most provocative thought of this entire explainer. What if life is fundamentally about movement rather than arrival? If arriving is largely just a psychological illusion, then maybe our obsession with getting to the end is entirely misplaced. I really want you to take that thought with you today. Reconsider your own pursuit of destinations and ask yourself where you actually find your true meaning. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating topic. Keep questioning, keep learning, and hey, enjoy the movement.